Ladies and gentlemen, you are now tuned into Mogul Talk, a podcast that serves as a canvas for entrepreneurs to share their triumphs and struggles on their journey to becoming the moguls of tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, you know the vibes. This is Mogul Talk with your boy King Jules and your boy No Church in the City. We got a special guest for you today, the one and only, the connoisseur of marketing. If you want to get some good work, his work is certain, unlike the stock of GameStop at the moment. You know, he ain't ever going to let you down. Jules de Leon. What it do? Welcome to the show.
Man, I gotta hire y'all for like intros.
No, seriously.
Man, can I just hire you? Like, you know, when I walk into meetings, I'll be like, hold up, we got King Jules and Kevin. Let me introduce them real quick. I love that. Now I'm doing really well. I think I'm just on a check-in tip. I'm just, like I said, excited to do what I do every day. Love music. Obviously, given the circumstances, it's challenging across the board, but, you know, I think, you know, we'll talk more about this during this episode, just finding your purpose. So I'm excited to tap into my purpose every day. So, you know.
Awesome. Love the energy. You know, for those of you who don't know, we are now on a YouTube space, so you're probably watching us in real time. Or you're seeing us in real life. This is what I say. But, you know, for those of you who don't know, my name is King Jules. I am, you know, one of the co-hosts here with my good brother Church. You know, today's episode, we do have Drew DeLeon. As you heard Kevin in that amazing intro. I think Kevin gives the best intros to people. This is why at my wedding, I want him to introduce my fiance or my soon-to-be wife and I as we walk through, because there's no intro, but it's going to be better than coming from him. But on today's episode, seriously.
But you know, I'm with it. Hopefully, not too many tequila shots though. When I'm doing that.
No. Since you go out there, before we get into introductions, like Drew needs some background. So my 25th birthday last year, and not last year. Wow, this is crazy. This is 2 years ago. Kevin comes. I have a 25th birthday party, and Kevin was working at this company where he works at now. They have a regular happy hour on Fridays. So Kevin went to happy hour, and he came to my party sliz. He was so drunk that his coworker had to bring him from the happy hour to the venue to make sure he did not miss my birthday party. It was so bad that my mom and Kevin, they've known each other since we were like 14 years old. Kevin forgot that who my mom was. That's how drunk he was. And he waved to her, and she was like, Kevin has never waved to me in his life. He normally gives me a hug. Is he okay? And I had to tell my mom, I'm like, yeah, he's a little bit drunk, you know?
You got Liddy.
Really not one of my more embarrassing.
Your brightest moments.
I definitely felt so bad always. But it's all good. You could be that drunk at my birthdays too. I'll take care of you.
All right. Sounds like a plan.
Sounds like a plan.
So let's get into, you know, the bio for today. So just to give you guys some background as to who Drew is and his work. Drew is currently the head of marketing at Alamo Records. He's formerly the director of digital at Def Jam. With over 10 years of experience in the music industry, he currently heads digital for artists such as Rod Wave, Lil Gotit, Young Mai, Wifisfuneral, Sainvil, ALX, and more. In 2010, Drew started his own music agency, Blank Label, where he develops artists through digital marketing and brand partnerships. And in 2016, he co-founded the global music and tech education community, the Digilogue, with the belief of paying it forward in the music industry. And outside of the industry, Drew is also a basketball enthusiast. He loves the Knicks. This is disappointing. But, you know, this year, your Knicks are doing something. I'm not going to front. My Knicks are my NBA 2K My Player team. Y'all are doing something. My fantasy team, I got Mitchell Robinson. I got RJ Barrett. You know.
It's been a rough 25 years.
25, man. This has been a
Don't get into the hype, man. The Knicks do this all the time. They'll show some hope in the beginning, and then they just let everybody down. And then the
Carmelo Knicks, they actually went somewhere.
What happened?
Kinda.
Carmelo Knicks. They went deep in this playoffs.
Yeah, I gotta give Kamala his flowers. He did his thing, but
Yeah,
no one beats the '94 Knicks. That's all I can say. '94,
Oh, of
even though they
course.
lost the chip. Yeah,
yeah. But you look at the times they were set up from the jump. You couldn't get through the Bulls that
Yeah.
in that era. Like that year, I don't even think that was the year that Jordan took the year off, and they actually still went pretty far without him. So that says a lot about that team.
Yeah.
it does.
So, just to continue on, I know I don't want to get a sidetrack, but he's also embraces his Filipino heritage and enjoys spending his time with his family and friends. This is also something that I did in my background. My man Drew is from Queens. Queens get the money. Got it tatted on me. Kev's
Let's
from
go.
Queens, high school in Queens. We've been here all day, every day.
Dozo.
Bosta.
Wait, you went to Dozo?
Yes, sir.
Oh, that's
Come on,
crazy.
yeah, thanks, man. Yeah.
Wow.
Queens, if you know. I mean, it's like if you grew up here, you know how it's like. Obviously, I'm not being biased, but it is the best borough.
100%.
Can't,
And nobody else can.
deny
The
it.
only people who would compare is Brooklyn, the
course.
Bronx.
Of
And
course.
Brooklyn already knows what the real is, and the Bronx does too, and that's why Queens gets the money. Simple as that.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So as we go on, I want you, Drew, to kind of like take us through your personal journey. What led up to you being the head of marketing for Alamo, Def Jam. What was the journey? You talk about Cardozo. Any Queens person knows what Dozo means. So tell us about that early journey that brought you to where you are now.
Yeah, no, 100%. So shout out to all my Queens folks that are watching this. I think for me growing up, I grew up in a lower, middle class household. I wasn't born here. I was actually born in the Philippines. So I came over here in the States when I was 4. And, came in with, I grew up in an immigrant family. New York was my first stop. I've moved around and eventually settled back in New York. But I think for me growing up, my parents were always just mad strict. So it was about school, getting good grades. They were like blue collar workers. And for a lot of Filipinos, I think, and just a lot of immigrant families, the expectations is always just to like study hard and get a great job. So I think going to college, I wanted to go to those expensive schools, but I think for me, just like thinking financially, I went to a really great school, to be honest. I went to Baruch. So shout out to my Baruchians, CUNY, SUNYs. You get that subsidized tuition.
Of course.
If you know, you know. And I got a great education there because I literally got the same job as folks that graduate, at NYU. And not to say that, I saved a lot of money. It was just, I think for me, validation that I made the right choice. But I think going into school, I knew I wanted to go into business. So when I first went to college, it was really about trying to find, what my interests were. I took accounting as a first major. The idea of like Asians loving math, I'm just gonna just eliminate that. I don't love math, but I like numbers, if that makes any sense. Like I don't love math, but I like numbers. So I think for me, math and accounting wasn't necessarily the thing that I wanted to like pursue. So I pivoted into marketing. This is during a time where Complex was huge when it came to magazines. Like sneaker culture was huge. Like dunks were huge at the time. I thought I wanted to work at Complex because I would always like get their magazines. I'm like, I want to work here. But I found myself getting an internship at this investment bank, and my friend hooked me up. He's like, yo, if you wear a suit and just like, type in these numbers in the spreadsheet and get these people coffee and just make these runs, you make $11 an hour. I was like, what? Okay. It was at the time, it was just extra money. This is just for context. This was like 2003. So eventually, I was looking at like these guys. I was like, man, these brokers. I was working for an investment bank at the time. It was Morgan Stanley. And it was like, just like the idea of like, I didn't see those people like around me. So for me, like I saw like, wow, like how do they get tickets to the Giants game? Like why always like these guys always dressed up? So immediately I was like, man, these people are successful. So I just equated that as success. So, for me, I gradually went to The next internship, which was another finance job, I did really well. And I think, my passions for like music and marketing were always just centered around my friends. But at the time, like I was just like, oh, this is a guaranteed salary. I was gonna make a lot of money off college like that I've never made before. So I took it. I drank the Kool-Aid. I was like, all right, and then at that time, I decided to like move into the city. Like I was, I thought I was, I thought I made it. And coming from what I went through growing up, like that was for me like success. Like, all right, I'm living in the city, I have a good salary, I'm helping my parents out. And I think the pressures of that just kind of just like was always in my back of my mind because I remember that first 6 months I was just like really convincing myself that this was it. You know, did the whole suit and tie. This is a time when Blackberries were hot. Like we used to like BBM. And I thought I was cool. Like, oh, I got a BlackBerry, like I'm just gonna just
like I'm doing real business.
Mind you, I'm just like chatting with like people, like yeah, stocks, yeah, sure. And for me, I think I was just like every day, and it just started to wear off. Like, all right, who am I and what is my purpose? Because I would wake up, and then towards the end of that first year, I was like, all right, cool, I made a solid, paycheck, but what did I compromise, right? I just remember going into the weekends like super just like hype about it, and that just getting those Sunday scaries, just like, man, I gotta go in on Monday, and I was like, why do I feel like this? And you just have to start listening to yourself, and you're like having that sense of self-awareness. So I was lucky enough that a lot of my friends were also creatives, like designers, photographers, like aspiring artists and DJs. So I was always like the odd person out. But mind you, like my interests were always just like there, but I was in finance. And I knew I just wasn't like in the right place. So fast forward 2009, this is probably the worst time to like leave a job. The economy was going through a transformation. It was like Wall Street was tanking, and they were firing people. They were laying people off. Mind you, they decided to promote me. I was like, no, don't promote me. Because I would literally have to work two other people's jobs. So it was challenging because while they're like laying people off, there's probably more work on my end. So I would stay at work at like 12, 14 hours a day. And that was, it was just tough. And mind you, this is like 60-hour weeks. Getting in at 7, leaving at 9. I was like, this is not normal. And eventually it really hit the toll where I was like, all right, I'm going to leave. And I need to tell my manager, like, I need to take a vacation. And it's going to be an extended one. And I remember, I remember March of 2009, I left. And I was like, what am I doing? And at the time, I just needed to get out. And I think for a lot of folks that are going through these things, sometimes you just got to just step out of the place that you're in because you're so like consumed by it, and have yourself a moment to think and find like that moment of clarity. So I actually went to California and traveled up and down the coast by myself. And isolation, a lot of people like don't want to travel alone, but I found a lot of value in that because I had a chance to really listen to my thoughts and just kind of understand like what happened the past 3 years. Like what is, because like you're literally, the New York hustle. It's like you're going every day, and you don't have a chance to like really just step back and understand why you're doing these things. We are back. And then, just for context, we're here, California. This is 2009.
California.
And yeah, and I left my job with no clear plan. I advised no one to do that. I think we've all hit moments where we're just like, this is it. I can't stand this job anymore. And for me, I hit that moment. But I don't advise anyone to do that. I did it, and I had to deal with the repercussions of it.
Yeah, most definitely.
And I think the challenging part of that was just trying to find my purpose during that time. But I just needed to get out of New York.
Kevin just recently did the same thing. He made the move from Queens to LA. This has been 2 months now since you made that move?
It's been more than that. I moved October
Really?
15th, so it's
Yeah.
almost about to
Wow.
be
He
4 months.
did the same thing. He was like, I'm tired of New York. I need to get away for a little bit.
Wait, so why'd you leave?
So like, during these times, everybody's working from home, and so it was just the perfect
Mhm.
opportunity where I can still have my job. I didn't quit my job. I still have my New York job, and luckily, with internet, I guess we are able to work from anywhere around the world. And so my boy had a room available. I was like, let's do it. Let me see something new. Why not? Sometimes you got to take that leap, and you might be falling for a minute, but eventually a parachute will come, and you'll be able to stick your landing. It's definitely not for the weak though, and it's something that you got to be prepared for because it can be financially exhausting. You got to make new friends, especially during a
Mhm.
pandemic. Like you don't even know what's going on, but California is beautiful. I am planning on,
Yeah.
much like you did, you traveled California, the whole coast. I'm planning on in September biking from Washington to Mexico, just north to south, just to see everything. And why not?
Wow.
Why not
Wow.
explore what's out there to get the experience? But
Yo, your
California is
legs are
beautiful.
gonna
The
be
hiking,
huge.
I
You're
know
gonna have
my
monster
legs are
calves.
Yo, your calves are gonna be stocked.
Yo, I
Those will
can't
be
wait.
healthy calves.
Hell yeah,
Healthy
hell yeah.
calves.
Healthy calves.
I love to hear that. I love to hear that. I think just the idea of getting lost, and just kind of feeling vulnerable was something that I needed because I was so secure and just kind of, I didn't say I felt complacent, but it was just like you're just going through the motions.
Mm.
And I think the idea of being lost and just like unsure of things woke me up and it allowed me to just to live, just be, oh man, not sound cliche, but be free a little bit. And I appreciated that during the times when, from a financial standpoint, it was challenging. But, during this moment, I had good friends that were artists, DJs, and that's really how my career started. So, you know, what you're doing now, you guys started as friends, right? You're doing this together. So my DJ friend was like, "Yo, Drew, you have business acumen. You know how to write proper emails. You know how to talk to people. Can you help me book gigs?" I was like, "What?" I was like, "Book gigs?" I don't know about booking gigs, but I know how to talk to people. So, and I know how to pitch. So that's what I did. I started booking my boy who was a DJ. We were obviously part of like the New York nightlife scene and just kind of being out and about and just plugging them in. That's how I started music as a music manager, right? As a DJ manager. And eventually that's actually when I started Blank Label because I had to think like coherently about it. Like, how are people going to expect me or respect me in terms of like what I do? So I literally went on Vistaprint, created free business cards. Wix was free, created a website, and then, you know, invested a little bread into like LegalZoom, filed an LLC, and there you go. Blank Label
Wow.
started, So mind you, little did they know I started that 3 weeks ago. Like they didn't know, you know.
But to them on paper, you're legit. This guy knows what he's
Legit.
doing. Yeah.
Yeah, he's proper. Like he speaks eloquently, and he knows business terms and stuff. So yeah, I was like, let me read the contract. Mind you, I was like, man, I gotta read this contract. I literally had to like hit up my boy's a lawyer. He's a financial lawyer. He's like, yo, does this look legit? Like, you know, these are things that I was just doing, and the point I'm making is that you start the best things that you're passionate about with your friends,
Mm.
and you don't have to wait for you to like be in music to like you don't have to be at a label. You start things that you're passionate about tomorrow, and that's the point I'm making. So fast forward, with Blank Label, this is the time when digital in music really exploded, both from a social media standpoint and streaming. 2010, 11, Spotify, the SoundClouds. This is a shift in music consumption. You're going from iTunes to streaming.
Mm.
And then from a digital standpoint, Facebook was relatively like about 5 years old. Twitter was popping. That was about 2 years old. Instagram didn't even start yet, but YouTube just kicked off. And, there's all these new platforms that you as a marketer can like promote an artist. And I was just excited to be part of that. that conversation. And mind you, I didn't know what I was doing, but I was just like, oh, this is cool. Let me just post stuff here, this, that, and the third. And that's really like where my experience in digital marketing really started, was just through trial and experience. Not to say error, it's experience. Like, you're just trying things out. And that's where like I really learned how to market, artists online. And eventually I started working with recording artists. I fell in love with like the idea of like working with different brands, and I had an opportunity to work with a really dope brand at the time as just like a day job. And this was Beats by Dre. So Beats by Dre was like Jordans on your head. Like,
Absolutely.
the most expensive headphones. But it was a statement piece. Like, you wore Beats. I was like, man, this guy
got money.
This guy got bread. Like, it was a statement piece. Like, Jay's, like, everyone got Beats. And for that like 3-year period, I worked as a brand ambassador, eventually a brand manager over at the Beats by Dre store. This was the only concept store available in the world. It was in Soho. And I had a chance to work there during the day. Met some really dope people. I got to see how brands like Beats and like really approach marketing artists. And I also built a lot of relationships. But during that time, this is what I'm telling people. Like, if you got a day job, you got to have your side gig that, you're building. And mind you, I was building a blank label, working with artists, doing stuff on the side, plugging in my artists, and just finding ways to just like, just integrate them into what I was doing. Fast forward, this is like 2016, I'm working with different artists, independently, and just learning about the space. So I found my niche, like helping artists on the digital marketing side, and also helping artists from a brand side, because I got to see what people at Beats by Dre were able to do with artists. So I started plugging in different brands with artists where like I can get a bag for an artist where they could just like do a photo shoot, do some branded content. And it was ways where like you weren't necessarily making pennies off just like your royalties off your music. It was like you can get money at face value, but also a marketing opportunity to like expand your brand outside of your core audience. So these were just things I was just thinking about. I was like, let me just try this. So that's where like I really found my niche in music, which was through trial and experience, not trial and error. And then during 2016, mind you, I have all these artists like reaching out to me like, yo, Drew, how do you do this and that and the third? And I'm trying to figure things out, but how can I help everyone on a bigger scale? Because I knew that, what I went through for the first 6 years. And I remember working out of a co-working space. Shout out to Wix. Wix is a website platform. They had a co-working space in the Flatiron, and it was free, only if you had a free Wix website. And little people didn't know about this. So I literally found out through my friend. And if you had a Wix website, you could work out of here and apply for the program. I applied, I positioned myself as like the only music person, and I was the only music person there. So like I was able to get in, and I worked there for free, and which was really cool because I was able to like really build my brand out of there. And that's where Digilogue was born in 2016. I saw all the community program that they were doing, and I was like, wow, they're doing this for just people that are trying to build websites in their businesses. How could I do the same for artists and music professionals? And we had our first event at, was one of our first events was at Wix. And what I realized, for me was how powerful that was, because I remember going to like music events in the past, and we can attest to this, man. Music industry events are very cliquey. Mm-hmm. Like everyone's to themselves. It's cold. It's not welcoming. And I remember going to an industry event that I had to pay for. I was like, man, this is whack. Like, why are people paying for this? Why did I pay for this? But I did that as a social experiment. Yeah, I was just like, why am I doing this? So, and I wanted to create a space where like people felt like they could just be themselves. And we started with a small group of like people that we knew. We started with small workshops. Eventually we scaled into like panel discussions. And fast forward, we're like working with brands like WeWork, doing events there in New York, traveling across the country. We eventually worked with a really dope audio brand Sennheiser, we did a 4-day conference. Oh my gosh, that was a lot to produce. And then we worked with some really other dope brands like Dolby. And, fast forward, here we are, 4.5 years later, with an incredible community that I have a privilege to be a part of. Over close to 23, thousand followers across our socials. And an amazing team that I've been able to like be a part of, because all those team members I have now started as attendees. And, and I think there's a common thread. I think one, we love music. We have a passion for music, and we also have a passion to pay it forward. So, Digilogue has been a big part of like my why. But outside of that, I've also had to learn about the business of music through just like working in music. So I had an opportunity to actually work at Def Jam because of the Digilogue. I remember my boss and mentor, my friend JD Tominski, got to give him his flowers. Like, he DM'd me in 2017, was like, yo, I like what you're doing. Come in. I like the aesthetic and all you're creating. So the point I'm making is that sometimes you have to start things and create things for people to see your worth and value. So versus you having to wait for you to go in and just do it. And I was able to create that without anyone telling me to, and people noticed it. And once I got to Def Jam, it was definitely intimidating. I have to say, like, the first, month, I was going through my imposter syndrome. I was like, man, do I belong here? Is my experience worth here? And what I realized was, I wasn't defined by the building or the label. Like, people rocked with me because of me. And that's, I took that and I went into meetings more confident, because like the first marketing meetings are very intimidating, because you have all these like big players in music that have had success. And when I came in, I was very intimidated, but you kind of learn like, oh wait, I can add value, because people respect the work I did. And I was able to like just put my head down. And one of the artists that I was really a big part of the growth of was Danny Lay. Obviously, I don't work with her anymore, so given the current news, but she was a big part of my really contributions, and a lot of great artists like Alessia Cara, Tiana Taylor. I got to work with some amazing female artists. I got to work on a Nas project, Pusha T, so really dope artists. But my really like big contribution was Danny Lay, because I got to see an artist from zero to like really, really grow. And fast forward, just through all that work, I was able to find a really dope opportunity to work at Alamo. And then since then, for those who are listening, I was a big part of like Rod Wave's growth last year, and got to see him grow as an artist. And it was a challenging time during this pandemic to promote an artist during a pandemic, but we were able to do it. So shout out to the Alamo team, but more importantly, the digital team and all the partners that really supported him and Rod and his fans. So here we are.
Wow. What a journey. And it hasn't ended. I feel like for me personally, Drew and I connected on LinkedIn because, I feel like I'm at that point where Drew went to California and traveled for 3 years. That's what I feel like I'm about to do in my current situation. And, I wanted to take the opportunity because a lot of people see networking as a way to like, oh, I want to get something out of it, but at the core it's just connecting with people. And I just wanted to simply have a conversation with Drew, get to know him, meet him as a person, and to see Drew's growth over the past year or so since we've been connected. I think like the Digilogue has really gone off through the pandemic. Your work with Alamo has gone off through the pandemic as well, and it's a testament to who you are as a person. And I really love the point that like you really spoke about. It's not about what you do for your regular work, right? Your regular work is good, but what do you do outside of it, and that passion and purpose? And you spoke about, Kevin and I doing this project and working with our friends. And that's the thing that we've always had is like, this is just going to be a way to kind of be a catalyst for us to kind of get to that next level.
Yeah. Huge. And I love to see things like this. So commend you for putting this together. So shout out to Mogul Talk.
Thank you.
And I totally appreciate that. One thing, you were so right about beats being the most coveted thing. They became the next big thing after in New York, North Faces, like the jacket. That was the thing everybody was robbing people for. And then I would like to say like Beats became the new North Face where like they'll just try and snatch it from you, which became like a dangerous item to have. That's how coveted it was. Another thing that you said that I want to piggyback on is just the resources that are out and exist for people, especially living in a city. You know, you did do the Wix thing, and there are other grants that people could apply for, minority things that will allow you to push any business forward. A lot of people don't know it's not really that expensive to like get an LLC online. Right now in these days, everything is much more accessible, and that can like that also connects to things like the current GameStop and Nikon thing that now normal people are getting money using the market.
Right.
It isn't just the big hedge fund people. It isn't just the big market heads that are leading in marketing. You were able to use the resources like YouTube to push your brand, and anybody, if they have the idea, they can think it can come to fruition. And so like you creating that community and you having this journey, do you think that you kind of have or hold power in a sense? Do you have power to put people on? Have you gotten to that level yet? Through the Digilogue though, I can clearly see that you feel that you do have to pay it forward, and that's really wonderful to say. Like, what caused you to feel that way, that no, this isn't just for me, there's enough pie to go around. We can't be a greedy, entity. You can't be greedy because really there's enough money to go for everyone. What caused you to have that like outlook and to continue to see it through with like the Digilogue?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's twofold. I think that the idea of just having what I went through, through my own experience, have not necessarily having a mentor at the time, and it's like, man, I can only imagine what they're going through right now because I was lost for the first couple of years, and what I had to go through in terms of just like, my family not necessarily understanding what I was going through at the time, your friends changing, and I think what held me together was just always believing in myself that, this was going to pan out, being your biggest champion. And you talked about this, trying to move to LA where, you got to really have thick skin for that, but everyone's not made to be that. And I was able to get through it, but I was like, all right, how do I help people at least or create a starting point? And I feel like I have going back to my why is like, I have a social responsibility to help people with a starting point. I'm not going to give you the sauce. Like the sauce is you, like you're the sauce. You guys got to figure it out, but we're going to be here and support you and give you tools and resources. We're not going to tell you how to make these creative ideas happen. We're just going to give you the tools and resources and say, go for it. Right. We can't tell you when to wake up. We can't tell you when to go to bed. That's on you. But we are going to guide you with things that you don't necessarily have access to and information that you don't have access to. We can help you with that. So that's one. I think two, the idea of pie and making things better and sharing information is that I care about the future of music, right? I care about the product of music being better. So why limit information when we can collaborate better? Why can't you collaborate with someone in a different country as an artist? Because the product of music can only be better that way. Why can't we get the most qualified people, in these positions to help market these artists? It doesn't have to be through nepotism and through people that just are hiring their nieces and nephews. It's about the quality of people that want to pay, do the best work for the artists. And this is all, it's going to help everybody in the long run, whether you're like the bigger guys, the smaller guys, because at the end of the day, the product and the future of music can only be better because of it.
No, most definitely. And you think, to go off of what you were talking about, it sounds like there's a lot of gatekeeping, and people, and not only just in the music industry, but I feel like in the world in general, people are really trying to hold on to the sense of power or control that they have. And in that type of space, you know, I feel like there's a lot of like kind of pressure, you know, that somebody might feel because of like, hey, you know what, like, how do I feel? How do I make sure, you know, your obligation and your why is making sure that somebody else gets a step up from the knowledge that you have so they can pay it forward for the next person. But I just feel like a lot of the world, and you know, we're going to definitely touch on this when we get to our trends to watch, but like Clubhouse, you know, there's a lot of gatekeeping on Clubhouse and people, you know, trying to set up certain type of things and show like, you know, I think about that meme that was going on Twitter when people do their Clubhouse interactions like, my name is John, I run marketing for this company, I manage this artist, I'm an A&R, I'm a videographer, I have all these different titles and purposes, but then at the same time they're trying to like put each other on. So I think my question going into that is, what was one thing that you wish you would have known at the beginning of your career, whether it was dealing with people or, you know, certain type of experiences that you wish that you had?
Yeah, I wished, you know, and this is something I didn't start doing or focusing on in the past 4 years, was really focusing on my mental health. So I think we get caught up in hustle culture. I was a big product of it, and working, tirelessly, and like where it's like, man, am I doing enough? I'm not seeing the results. And what did I compromise from that? I compromised my time with family. I compromised time with friends. And there has to be moments where you have to like take a switch off, because everyone is gonna burn out. And you have to like learn how to like listen to your body, listen to your mind, because how could you pour water if your cup is like half full? Like, it's, how do you help other people when you're drained? And these are things I was thinking about recently, and I was like, why was I in those positions like the first 6 years? Like, why did I feel like I wasn't at my best? It's because I didn't necessarily put myself first. And that's something that you just learn over time, and I'm a big advocate for, where you have to make sure that you have to be your best self so you can be the best version of yourself, and more importantly, have the best product of yourself. Like, how do you help people at your best? And you have to make sure you take care of yourself that way.
Most definitely.
No, the mental health aspect, and it's good to like see that now in 2021 and in 2020, 2019, mental health has become, you know, not as taboo. We do like to work out all of our muscles. You want to get abs, you know, get biceps, but we need to know that our brain is a muscle as well that needs to be worked at. And, you know, that's why I think more companies now are like offering blank space, you know, just so you can have someone to talk to, someone that you can help you organize your thoughts. Coming from a marketing standpoint, wanted to ask you, you worked with Wifisfuneral and Rod Wave, both double XL freshmen, 2018 Wi-Fi, and I think 2020 was Rod Wave. Rod Wave, in my opinion, seems to be more popular at the moment. I also think you could clearly see his like raw talent, and when he is spitting, you can feel his pain, in my opinion. So I think that's why maybe he is popping off more. Yeah. Do you think the double XL freshman list is a diluted thing now? Has it decreased in value? Or is it just like a sticker that is placed on an artist, you know, much like, oh, Grammy nominated? But from a marketing standpoint, has it been diluted in any way? Has now, because that has gone down, what are the other avenues that young rappers need to be looking at? Is it now that they have to be on TikTok and make a, you know, there's no concerts now, so how else are you going to get out there? You know, how else are you going to show that you're lit? So what do you think? Specifically the double XL, do you think it has been diluted over the years?
Yeah, well, I think any press validation is always going to be great for an artist. You know, obviously press is great, kind of a rite of passage. I mean, double XL for a lot of artists that we're big fans of, whether it's Kendrick, you know, J. Cole, happy birthday, by the way. And just for a lot of the artists over the years, Nipsey and everyone else, it's like been a rite of passage. So I won't say it was diluted. I think it's important to have benchmarks where, you know, you as a developing artist, as a rapper, kind of like, okay, what did I do this year Like, am I part of this group of people that are supposedly supposed to be like the next wave of big artists, right? So I think it's important to have those things, and especially with platforms like XXL being, a big part of hip hop over these past 10 years. It's definitely a rite of passage. But I think for artists, the most important thing is, the way I talked about my why is, what is the artist's why? And if the artist's why isn't their fans, then we got a problem, and the music is going to be there, right? We know everyone has great music, but who are the artists, which artists are paying attention to the fans, and, are they talking to their fans? Are they engaging with their fans, right? There's a reason why like platforms like TikTok are, really affect music consumption, because, there's so much fan engagement there, but also there's a community there. And I think for a lot of artists, before pre-COVID, they took it for granted how fans were a big part of their growth. And I think, for a lot of artists, whether you're big or small, you have to make sure your why should be artists, because platforms like TikTok is driven by community. Platforms like YouTube are driven by community. Like, you got to really, really engage with them. And it's challenging, obviously, as an artist, because you're going through this pandemic. But this is a time where you have to create that intimacy, because everyone is dealing with it. Like, how do you approach it where like fans feel like they're a big part of the discussion that you're creating? And it's not just promoting your music when you want to. It's about creating conversation and interest that you're passionate about. And I always try to tap into artists, whether it's like, you love gaming, you love fashion. Like, this is where you connect on a human level, where I actually can connect with this person outside of loving their music. And it's creating that meaningful connection that's going to make you want to, purchase their merch, make you want to share their content, make you want to like post a quote from them. Because, as a marketer, three of the first questions I ask myself on a daily basis is like, who are your artist's fans? Where your artist fans live? And how do I convert my artist's fans into super fans? Because like, fans can be casual and be like, yo, I heard that song, but I don't know who the artist is. Or a fan could be like, man, I know every lyric from Rod Wave. Like, I know he was born in St. Petersburg, like this, that, and the third. Like, so how do we get those fans to be those type of fans? You know what I mean? So the artist's fans got to be their why, and I think if that's not the case, then I would try to like, reevaluate what your why is.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, and with the fans really are the ones that, because if you want to be successful, let's say you only had 10,000 fans, but if they gave you $10 each month, you're gonna make $100,000 a month. If someone is clowning you on IG, let's say Nicki Minaj, the barbs are gonna come and decimate you, protect you no matter what.
Decimate you.
Beyonce, the Hive, they're always gonna come
with a sniper gun,
like Call of Duty,
like Call of Duty, man.
And they're gonna send you to the gulag. Like, it's the fans are. I'm gonna give you an example. There's a comedian, Andrew Schultz. He's from New York, from Manhattan, and he's popping. And he has a show called Inside Jokes, and it's just him coming up with jokes with his friends, like how their process is and everything. Kevin Hart actually yesterday announced a show called Inside Jokes, and it's the same exact thing. And Andrew Schultz series has millions of views on YouTube, and Kevin Hart, I guess, apparently had no idea. But Andrew Schultz fans were like, "Yo, Kevin Hart, like that's messed up. Like, how you not gonna know your fellow comedian? Like, this is messed up." And now Kevin Hart put out an apology, and he's changing the name of his show, and it's no longer going to be Inside Jokes, and apologized to the comedian and everything. And without his fans, that might have not been possible. So you have to hold them down, because they're the ones giving you the money. Like, they were there when you weren't hot, and you got to keep them when they are hot. But not the toxic fans, because of course there's the fans that are over the top that expect everything.
You don't want the Selena fans.
Because an artist is a human too, And so, like, you got to know that they also have a point where they can't please everyone, and that's what an artist has to realize. Yo, we can't please everyone, but we have to try. Try your best, because that's how you're rich.
Yeah, you gotta. I think artists have to understand that whether you're big or small, is that your artists are a big part of your identity. They're a part of your authentic code. Like, this is who they are. Why are you making this music for? Obviously, you make it for yourself too. That's driven by it. But, people are following you or sharing your music and they're inspired or moved by it. And I think if we're not listening to that, given this pandemic, it's challenging for artists to really be able to like excel during these challenging times because, we're dealing with, as a marketer and just like artists in general, is the attention economy, people's attention spans, right? People are consumed by the pandemic as a whole, their politics, their day-to-day relationships, whatever it may be. But where does music and this artist fit through all of this on a daily basis, right? So if an artist can keep top of mind, carry that conversation, and make sure like, all right, as I'm carrying this conversation, I'm going to plug in myself about my music here and there. So by the time that they drop a project, you're always like in the conversation with your fans. Like, it doesn't feel like, oh, wait, they just dropped a project. All right, I'm going to just tune in this week and then forget about it. Instead, they feel like they're a part of the growth. They want to support you. And that music is just a part of the relationship.
Most definitely. I think too, it's a really important point, and it's so ironic that that's the title of today's episode is community, because you talk about how an artist needs to build a community of fans and, turn them into super fans, right? So that they continue to build that revenue, build that relationship. And then talking about your work with the Digilogue and the community that you built there, because that community is not only music industry professionals, but it's beginner music people, it's artists, it's marketers trying to create some space. There are people, and I love the way that you guys pivoted this year, is to help support people who are, in need of jobs and opportunities, because that was really a huge blow because of the music industry being at a halt and, live entertainment being on pause. We weren't able to have those moments where, people still have sustainable jobs. So you guys are providing opportunity. So really, can you express the importance of community in your journey and an artist's journey, and what is maybe one common myth about building that sense of community that somebody might need to learn?
Yeah, for sure. I think community, and I think people can get intimidated by it, but community starts with your network first. The people that are really have shared values, your tribe. And it starts with the first 10. And it's like, all right, cool. Who also shares these values? So it's trying to find that common thread where, in our case with the Digilogue, we wanted people that were passionate about music, but also wanted to like help each other out. Mm-hmm. So I think twofold is understanding that, you don't have to think about the numbers, because we get lost in the idea of like, oh, we have to gain all these followers, these subscribers, and so forth. Just focus on building authentic relationships with your group, and eventually that will add up as people, speak word of mouth and just say like, oh, this is a really dope group. And then, you create some really cool events. And then, like I said, there's common value because they love music. We love music. We also want to help each other out. So you got to see that multiply, and you start to beat the same type of people. And then over time, you're just consistent with it. And I think this is something that we learned a lot, is that we were consistent with programming, that we were able to like really slowly grow the community as a whole. And my intention in the beginning was never to like feel like, this was a huge company. It was really just more so just to create that intimacy, regardless if we were 10 groups of people or like 100,000. I wanted to make sure that people felt like they, like myself, was accessible. And this is something that I want to continue to do as we grow, and feel like there's not an email that you have to reach out to, or like a support group. Like, you can reach out to people from the team that you see, that you could have a relationship with, and feel like you're part of something, and know that, there is like intimacy behind the things that we're creating. Like, there's something that's personal about it. And that's challenging, as companies grow. things grow. But that's what I'm really focusing on. I'm not worried about the numbers per se. I just want to make sure that, all our emails are answered, all our DMs are answered, all our comments are responded to. Like, these are the things I think about. And as we get bigger, we're going to prioritize that.
No, respect.
Beautifully said. Hell yeah. In this day, do you think is it possible, or how more likely is it that a artist, actor, whatever it may be blackballed in the industry? Because I feel partnerships, especially in the music industry, you need maybe the radio or Spotify look, that Rap Live playlist, be in the Explore page. How important are partnerships for an artist? Can they really survive in this time in 2021 without the help of anybody? Or do you really just need to be able to, other than the music, like making the music by yourself, in order to really get out there? Is it possible to do it solo? Like, do you need an Alamo Records, or do you need a Power 105? Do you need, again, the Explore page on TikTok? Is it imperative? Or if you don't got that, much like Tekashi, even though he did his things, he's completely blackballed, and he's really not going to really be out here. I don't think so. He's not going to get no radio play. So I don't foresee him being able to hit the stratosphere like any other artist anymore, I should say.
Yeah, for sure. I think for artists, everyone has different goals. I think there's artists that really want to like take the time to, like, for example, if you're an independent artist, like being able to take the time to build your fan base locally, regionally. Understanding that, from a revenue standpoint, obviously streaming is very challenging. So instead of looking at streaming as a way to like make money, look at streaming to understand who your fans are and how to market your music. We understand that the revenue pie has shrunk, right? So, for a lot of independent artists, they're not making money through their music. So you're going to make money through, what are the other avenues? Brand partnerships, merch. Brand partnerships is challenging because, sometimes it's about figuring out what your value proposition is for the brand. Trying to figure that out. But it's all levels to it. I think the first thing is going back to like the artist's why, is making sure that you're building a community and a fan base first. It starts with the first 100 and the first 500 and the first 1,000, and eventually the next 10,000. So for example, here's an example. So let's say you have 10,000 followers. 10% of those followers, are your super fans. If you drop a $10 piece of merch tomorrow, and let's say over a course of a week they all buy it, that's $10,000, right? So that's $10,000 of revenue, versus you as an artist trying to like just make money through streaming. For example, if you were to get 1 million streams on Spotify over a year, that equates to about $4,000 in revenue. So it's really shifting the mindset that, you can build a revenue stream for yourself as an artist through your small communities that you create. So niche communities is what's going to be really important for artists going forward, particularly independent artists that really want to find those focus groups, those niche. Because as you get bigger, obviously, your super fans will really convert into like casual fans, right? The artists that are on playlists like Rap Caviar, Rap Life, those are great. But you also have to think about the quality of fans that are listening to that. That's probably the average listener that doesn't really search for music, likes hip hop, but is not going to go search the artist. They want to be really given and really be basically curator or playlisted to that type of music. But the fans that are searching for new music or searching for the next artist, those are the fans I really care about. So, that's going back to the idea of like really focusing on those smaller groups, at least in the beginning. And as far as like partnerships, I think, like I said, with artists, they got to look at brands that align with them and their shared values. So if the brand doesn't align with your shared values, then you shouldn't work with them just because of the bag. And I'm just saying this from experience, like, you don't want to like work with a brand that says Balls Vodka and it doesn't match your brand. You're just like, what? That's a real brand though. You want to do it because it makes sense for you. And you want to find brands that, you can also grow with, right? So, for example, if there's like an emerging like merch like designer that's like really dope, but this is has a small audience too. Like maybe you're like, hey, let's share each other's audiences. Let me wear your stuff. You could use my music in your content. Let's do that. Build as you come up. So from a brand standpoint, people always look vertically. You gotta look at who's around you. Especially in the beginning.
Yeah, definitely. And I think too, you're pointing us in the right direction. You talk about, networking and building right there. And I think right now we talked about this on our last episode of Trends to Watch Clubhouse. I think this week, Clubhouse got an estimated $1 billion evaluation. And this is pre-launch, right? We're still in the beta stage of Clubhouse. So, a good question here is, how important is the power of networking and, looking at platforms like, Clubhouse and, I think Twitter is creating their own version of Clubhouse and, using platforms like LinkedIn. How important is, building that network in those type of spaces? And then as we foray into Clubhouse, who deserves the credit for the popularity of Clubhouse?
Well, I'll start with that question. So we got to give credit to Black culture. When you think about like what they're doing right now in terms of just like, creating the conversation, artists, celebrities, the conversation's happening there. And that's the same thing goes with like Twitter. Like it's interesting because the valuation is so high and, obviously the people that are driving it may not necessarily walk away with equity. So I think that's really interesting about it that, there was a whole conversation in Clubhouse about it. But I just want to make sure we're clear with that. And I think as far as different cultures of subgenres of that, there's music, fashion, and so forth. Music being a big conversation piece. But yeah, as far as platforms, I think there's a really exciting thing happening with Clubhouse because of what it's evolving to. I was listening to a podcast earlier this week. There's rooms where, what we viewed as podcasts and, education, it's kind of a combination of like becoming like an audio masterclass of sorts. So I like to say they're audio classes. And I think education is going to be a big driver for Clubhouse. It's going to be a big centerpiece for it. And I think, with Clubhouse evolving, I'm sure that once they raise money, they'll be able to like really filter, the right Clubhouse rooms and the right moderators because, let's just be honest, there's a lot of capping there. It's cap house, and it's sad because, there's a lot of people hustling, artists out, guaranteeing them success, making them pay to play, and the reason why. Going back to my why, social responsibility, we're there to actively say like, hey, there's a real community here. Here's real resources. At least the first layer of programming is free. Guys, it's free. And there's no catch. It's free. And there's not just free, but there's real people that are behind it that care about you. And there's credible people that want to speak to things that you're looking for. Do we have all the answers? No, but we can get the answers for you. Do we have the sauce? No, but we're a starting point. So all the things that people create rooms for, whether it's like you can make $1 million tomorrow, here are the secret sauce and the gems. I mean,
or $500 for to hear like a group of people moaning. That's when the platform went left. I'm like, guys, we were going in the right direction, and then something like this happens, and we're like, all right.
Oh, for sure. So, but in anything that's new, you need these things to happen because it's like you got to filter out the BS, and people will start to realize what discussions they want to be a part of and who's moderating it, right? So it kind of has to like happen itself, and it's what's happening now. We saw that. I think there was like a room we're just a bunch of hustlers. We're trying to like shit on like sorry, we're trying to like
It's cool.
try to shit on DistroKid, and I don't know if you saw that. It was just like basically they just wanted to like use that conversation to get a job from him, and basically scam people to like take their webinar. And then that's the thing too is like there's a lot of information that's free and available. I think for the artists, you just can't be lazy and think you're gonna find your answers there in Clubhouse. You got to do your research. You got to understand that, you know, just because a person has a followers doesn't mean they're legit, right? You got to fact check. Who's following the people that are talking? You know, that's how you validate the credibility. And that's why I love LinkedIn, because, you know, it's really tough to like, you know, people will check your credibility and who you're connected with. And I think LinkedIn, you know, is a great kind of benchmark for that, especially as a professional. So that's how we connected, obviously. And that's where a lot of my activity is. So LinkedIn is definitely something that artists and, you know, music professionals, but also artists should need to tap into, because you need to do your research on the people that are giving you advice, because I'm not saying you can't pay for experience. I think there's a lot of dope people that have valuable experience that you can invest in, but don't just pay for things that people are regurgitating online.
Wow, that was a gem, definitely.
Drop mic.
Where's the Obama meme? Right there. No, honestly. Now, truly, this is, you know, I feel like we're, you know, at the finish line almost. But truly, a very helpful and insightful dialogue. And, you know, before, you know, first off, I want to say thank you, Drew. You know what I mean? Thank you for taking the time out of your day to sit and talk with us. And I hope that our listeners and even newer listeners that are come across our podcast can listen to this and walk away with some gems. And I think the conversation was not only centered around music and artists, but there were gems on a personal level, on a professional level, from a marketing standpoint, and just gems that you can take along with you for life. But before you leave, I wanted you to have a platform. This is like the Mr. Rogers moment, right? He says his final thoughts, the thing that he wants to leave with the people. He gives his cosign. He puts on his fly sweater, his shoes, and says what he needs to say. So this is your moment to do that. You know, let the people know anything that's you got going on. Plug yourself for Digilogue, everything. This is you.
Well, I just want to say thank you, you know, to the entire team for allowing me to be part of this. So I met Julian via LinkedIn. We had a chat, and you know, he's invited me to this podcast, and this is like each one teach one. Like, we're all supporting each other. So just goes to show that you can't grow if you don't support your friends. So give your flowers to your friends, gas them up. This is the time to do it. You know, we need to grow together, build each other up. So I just wanted to say that. And for those who are listening, make sure to follow the Digilogue. You know, we're a global community where we speak to artists, we speak to young music professionals, and we're real people. This is not like some tech company or robot. Like, you know, we have real voices, and we're accessible. So make sure to tap in. There's a lot more exciting stuff to come up with the new year. We just launched 2 new playlists if you're an artist on Audio Mac. These are verified playlists: Rapper's Delight for our hip-hop heads and Channel Purple for our R&B heads. And mind you, these are the same streams that you're going to get on Spotify, Apple Music, and the submission is free. So for the artists, that's for y'all. For the young music professionals, we post job listings every Monday and Thursday. So we also have our newsletter that posts all our jobs and like industry news that's happening during the week. And then most recently, we launched a Digilogue directory. So essentially, we have a database where we match people with job opportunities. So we actually placed 3 people with jobs since December.
Wow.
And employers are reaching out to us to basically filter all the BS that they have to go through and say like, who are the qualified candidates from your community that can make sense for these job positions. And to say that we placed 3 jobs and helped 3 people with their lives in that respect means so much. So shout out to like, you know, the music careers team on that. And then I think lastly, for the artists, young music professionals, and anyone else, make sure you always, you know, have a chance to understand like why you're doing this thing. Whether you're becoming an artist, you want to like tap into the music space, understand what your why is, you know, because music isn't the easiest thing to work in. It's very hard. The optics may say something else, you know, flying on jets, you know, going on live shows, but it's a lot of hard work. So just making sure that your why is driven by passion, that you want to help people because it's going to go a long way for you. So, and then most importantly, through that process, make sure you put yourself first because your mental health is everything.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Kev, throwing it to you.
Shout out to Filipino gang. I grew up in Woodside, land of the flips.
Woodside, Elmhurst, folks.
Hollywood side, you know the vibes. So the fact that like, you know, I fuck with that OD. Like I hold the Filipinos down to the day I die, no matter what. Because a lot of my friends are Filipino, so I really fuck with that. And if you're from Queens,
Kevin
I'm
is
a hold you
Filipino
down.
by association.
You're an ordinary Filipino.
Filipino in my eyes.
I've gone to like Filipino parties and be like, "Yo, I'm half," and they'd be like, "Really?" And they'd be like, "Yeah."
You can pass for half.
Lying.
You can pass for half. Yeah.
Hell yeah, absolutely. Especially if I'm surrounded, like then I could pass.
Hey, you're an honorary Filipino in my eyes.
Filipino in my eyes.
Facts. Kamusta ya
but
mabuti.
truly, this is great.
Man, coming correct.
Coming correct.
All right.
All right. Okay.
Kev, I don't even know you can do that.
Watch out, LA. Watch out, Cali. Mad Filipinos there.
Mad
So
Filipinos there. So
who knows?
Yo, I know.
Kevin's gonna be right at
Kevin's
home.
gonna be right at home.
Exactly. It's gonna be like I never went anywhere.
Exactly.
But no, absolutely. I appreciate you. That's it. I think that's pretty much it. Thank you everybody for listening, tuning in to Mogul Talk. Check out at Drew De Leon, the Digilogue. Really inspiring. You're like the second marketer we've had. Before we had Junae Brown, who was also very impressive. And it's tough work. It's tough work to be able to like brand something and then just make it successful. So in this world, you know, you're always gonna need a lawyer, you're always gonna need a doctor, and someone's always gonna need a marketer, you know, to try and get out of this. So I think you choosing to have that lane and create your lane was the best decision you ever made. And it's not everybody could do it. But once you weed out the ones who are whack, you rose up and continue to drive the game. And I can see you changing the culture for the future, because that's really what it's about. Trying to do the hard work so the people in the future don't have to deal with it. You know, it's much like student loans. Like people be like, "Oh, we shouldn't forgive student loans because I had to pay it back then." But like, nah, you struggled for the ones in the future to make it so their lives could be better. You know, how else are we going to progress if you don't help everyone else? So I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Like that energy is what we need. You know, it's a breath of fresh air that I do think that I guess a lot of people, especially the younger generation, aren't trying to be greedy as much. You know, they're trying to change that thing. But it is a breath of fresh air. And that's what we got to do. Because if we don't got each other, how are we supposed to grow? For sure.
Beautiful.
Yes. Drops mic.
Energy. Drops mic. A lot of drops mic moments on here today. But once again, thank you guys for tuning in to Mogul Talk. It's your boy King Jules. One more time, you can find me at I am King Jules, and you can find my boy Kev at. And you can find Drew. Drew, drop your socials.
Yeah,
for the people to know.
At Drew Curator. So
see, even the Instagram name is top tier. How can you compare? You sure already by the Instagram name, you know this man is serious business. Okay, take him seriously once you give him that follow. But once again, thank you guys for tuning in today's episode. You can find us on Mogul Talk on Anchor.fm. You can follow us on Instagram at Mogul Talk Podcast, and you can also follow us on Twitter at Mogul Talk Pod. Until next time, a lot of love, a lot of peace, a lot of joy to you all. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you guys. Peace.
Us on Instagram at Mogul Talk Podcast and on Twitter at Mogul Talk Pod. Be sure to find us anywhere you listen to podcasts, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor.fm, or Stitcher. Look us up in your search tab by typing in Mogul Talk.